Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 1313 podcast, the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe. I'm Jacob.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Tommy.
Welcome back to all you Regs and to all you Shinies. Welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast. Please, before we begin, make sure you hit that like, hit that comment, leave a subscribe, hit the join button, follow us on all of our social media, that being Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch, and then make sure you support us on Patreon. Every month on Patreon, we do a nice little giveaway to our patrons in the Gungan Busty, and this month we are giving away,
We forgot to do the giveaway from last month.
We are behind 3 giveaways now.
No, we're
like
not.
have we done the stream for them?
We never did May's giveaway. We never did June's giveaway, and now we're in July. So
Okay, but I have the June thing, so let's do the June
They
thing.
can be patient. It is free for them. They can be patient.
we'll do a triple beheader.
Yeah, we'll do a triple beheader at some point.
You guys just have to wait until October. We'll just do like 10 of them.
Ooh, that'd be
I have
bad.
the Rex thing right over there in the corner.
Yeah, I have the other
Yeah.
one.
I have a crippling chlamydia infection to my bowels. I got it from a koala. Because koalas have
I don't.
Jackson, did you know that koalas have chlamydia?
Chlamydia, they have eucalyptus.
Yeah,
No,
that's-
they
that's
eat.
what
That's what they
eucalyptus.
eat. That's what they eat.
I was making sure you knew. I know.
10-4. All right. Welcome back, all you guys, all you shinies, to the podcast. This is the podcast. Fellas, how are we doing this week?
Doing
Good.
amazing. As of recording right now, it is the 4th of July. Shout out to the greatest nation in the world. Sorry, our European audience, that you don't live here. Just can't hang, I
Work
guess.
today.
But yeah, we also just got off doing a very, very amazing Have a Chat stream with no other than Michael from ICCCon. And if you missed that, check it out on our channel. That was on Wednesday. We recorded that, and we got to unveil 2 guests for ICCCon. We had the one and only Timothy Zahn and Mark Thompson, the person who wrote Heir to the Empire and the Thrawn books, and the person who voices Thrawn in all of the books. That was awesome. We were totally stoked. We knew ahead of time it was going to be Timothy Zahn because Mike had told us, but he didn't tell us about Mark. So that was a real treat for us on the stream.
Yeah, you could see me get up and then do a lap because I was like,
I can't believe he just impromptu dropped that second guest on us. That was peak. That really was.
Yeah.
I mean, it helped that I like yapped about Thrawn for millennia, and then I was like, I bought only Thrawn stuff at your con last year because I was like, I think I called myself a threat on it.
Yeah.
A slut for Thrawn, a threat.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
besides those 2 reveals too, he did say that in the coming weeks he has 15 more guests to reveal for ICC Con. So if you were just as excited as we are for this con, make sure that you are checking out his social media. He's supposed to be streaming almost weekly, I think, now with a bunch of other people that we know in the Star Wars community. And a bunch of others as well.
Our intellectual property, our ideas, are just stealing all of our ideas. Do one thing, and then they all do it because they're a bunch of sheeple and they can't think of. Their brains are so small. They go 1313 podcast. I need content. What should I do? And they just leech off us like we're a big whale and they're those little suckerfish that suck under the bellies, or like we're crocodiles and they're those birds that eat the meat out of our teeth. I love you all. I don't actually think that.
Litigations are coming. If you have him on the show after us, then the litigations will be showing up. In your
Yeah,
mailbox.
you will be hearing from our lawyer.
Yeah. Right.
He is 3 foot tall.
Lawyer.
He knows what he's doing.
Slander, defamation, theft of intellectual property, you name it. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, super hyped for the con. We hope to see y'all there. So
For sure. Yeah. Make sure to show up to ICC Con.
Pull up or you're poor.
Pull up or you're poor. What if they go absolutely bonkers and then also get Lars Mikkelsen and just have a Thrawn fest?
Oh no! Like if they have that, like no cap, no kizzy, I will show up with the biggest wet stain in my pants. I'll be like, "Hey guys, I missed a Thrawn."
Well, now I'm like super excited that I got that Power of the Force Thrawn figure. Because once we found out it was Timothy Zahn, I was like, oh well, that's like. So far, that's the only guest for this con this year that I was like, oh, I really want to get a signature from them. So I'm going to bring my Thrawn book, and then I'm the first one of the series because I actually read that one. And then I'm also going to bring the Power of the Force Thrawn. But now that Mark Thompson's there too, I'm going to have him sign the figure as well. That's going to be great.
That'll be dope.
You should get the Funko Pop signed.
That's actually a really good point.
Your big,
dude. You need to get you need to get your Thrawn one signed because that'll only make it shoot up in value if you want it.
I think I would only get the Thrawn Funko Pop signed by Lars Mikkelsen because it says Star Wars Rebels on it, so I feel like I'd rather have him sign that.
I think that's dumb. Get all three.
All three.
The Holy Trinity.
Because my collector's edition Thrawn book that I have, I'm buying. Well, I'm getting Mark to sign that, and I want Lars to sign it as well because I want all three of them to sign it.
I thought he already signed
it. Timothy Zahn signed it, not Mark. You idiot.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that. Yeah, I thought you said that Timothy's on it. My bad. Yeah.
You're just. It's okay. You're just slow and dumb.
Thank you. But I am really excited now to see because if this, for us, Timothy Zahn and Mark Thompson are two really bigger guests. So if he's going to reveal 15 more people, who's to say who he's going to invite next? So I am super stoked and hyped about that for sure.
I think next he's going to have the Glup Shido.
Which one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which one?
I hope the one that gets announced on Hybrid Stream is the puppeteer for Momon Nadon. That's what I want it to be.
That would be hilarious.
A Cantina alien.
His face crumble in disappointment.
So, fellas, there's been some Star Wars news reports coming out the last couple of days about the Acolyte's viewership.
Hell yeah, there has.
Some of you might be stunned to hear about this.
Tell me, do you want to spill the tea?
Yeah, so you can look this up. There's not one single source that's been reporting on this. But the Acolyte data suggests that Star Wars, despite online backlash from incels, it is a big smash hit, which to me would show. It says the Acolyte during its first 14 days on Disney Plus results indicate that the series is the second most successful in terms of streaming and engagement, outperforming the average top 100 TV shows by a factor of 6. Obi-Wan Kenobi holds first place.
That makes sense.
And okay, I will say, do take these with a bit of a grain of salt. Because all of these figures have been released by Disney and Disney only.
That's true.
Disney is releasing the data, and it's best for their interest, especially with D23 coming up next month at the end of this month, to make it look like the project is doing better. And Disney has doctored their numbers in the past. So take this with a grain of salt. Disney is releasing these numbers. Nobody else is. Do I want this to be a really well-performing show and for people to really like it? Yes. Am I a bit skeptical? Yes. But
I think that this really would lock in a season 2 of the Acolyte because I know that Leslie Headland's been talking about wanting to do she has said that this season is going to tie a bow nicely so that if future seasons don't get greenlit, it's consistent and it's complete in itself. But she said that she would like for a season 2 and a season 3 to be greenlit. And then after season 3, she would probably be done with the story how she wants to tell it. So I think at this point, at the very least, a season 2 is guaranteed.
I agree.
And I would hope so.
Ooh, wait, guys, I forgot to show you this.
Jacob keeps rummaging through his things mid-conversation.
You guys like this shirt?
So what if you can see the darker side of me?
Why did you buy that, Jacob?
I have become.
I'm looking for a trilby as well, a fedora, if you will.
I won't lie, dude.
I need to know if there's a Discord that needs moderated. I need to know. So
I would wear that. No lie.
Do you want me to wear it right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, put it on.
Yeah,
I'd wear that. That's a house shirt. Right now, I got on my Admiral Akbar. It's a trap shirt.
I got my 4th of July Army shirt on. Hell yeah.
I I got that dog in me, boys.
You know Jackson's in the army?
Dog. Oh shoot, I didn't know that.
This is so dumb.
Wild shit, dude.
Jacob, you
This is
were shirtless, and shirtless was the theme of Star Wars: The Acolyte, Episode 6.
Ooh.
Dude, did you see what I put in the Black Series chat in the Discord?
No.
Someone, it's not in the Black Series chat, it's the Acolyte chat, but somebody made a shirtless Khmer like action figure. Well, it's basically a naked Khmer action figure, but with covering like his private area. It's like a Walmart sticker, and also comes with one of those little duck things. Those are so funny and cute too. I love the creatures that Star Wars consistently makes because they're so cute and funny and whimsical.
Can they show up at the creature thing already? I want to buy them. Let me buy them.
But
I want it to be posable. Okay, because Disney does these things that it would be perfect for those, where it's like these little plushies that have a magnet so it sits on your shoulder. If they made those little things, perfect. They're not gonna, but it would be nice.
Yeah. I feel like, when you guys were talking too about like the Acolyte being renewed, the only thing that I feel like would be a good indicator too that people might not like it as much is with merchandising. I don't think the Black Series figures are going to sell that well, and I don't think merchandise for the show is going to do great either, but there also hasn't been much merchandise.
I don't know.
Because I know yesterday you posted there was like an ingot, and I was like, I'm not going to buy that.
Well, they also made one for Skeleton Crew. They made an ingot for Skeleton Crew as well.
They made an inglet.
Yeah.
Inglet.
Yeah, ingot.
And then they have the Stranger helmet, but like
that's sold out, which was cool.
It sold out on Hasbro, and it looks really cool. But did you guys see? I don't know if Kylo made a video about it, but he sent me something just tearing it apart. It was like apparently it was like super inaccurate to what you see in the show. So he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make my own." And I was like, "Well, if you're doing that, can you make me one?"
What is the Stranger helmet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the color's wrong. A few of the details are wrong, but at the end of the day, it's a toy, so it has to be made in a specific. It's not meant to be like a replica prop piece.
The eyes are like this, bro, in that helmet. They're like that.
Yeah, they have to show enough space for the eyes.
Yeah, for kids.
I will say that helmet has sold out twice now on Hasbro Pulse. So I mean,
it's a banger.
It can't not be selling at all, you know? It's not artificial.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's still
my favorite thing is like after episode 5, like the haters got kind of quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think people are starting to chill out a little bit. The casual audience starting to chill out a little bit because at least there was a really cool fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, still, you'll go to social media and it'll kind of be like the same boring responses to stuff. And at this point, you can just tell it's people who haven't watched the show and they watch the clip notes online of people ranting. So
yeah, it's not. They're watching other people subjectively reviewing the content.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of people that were like, the fight scene actually isn't as good as you think it is because there's actually just a lot of moments of other people like waiting their turn just to die. I'm like, okay, I just rewatched Revenge of the Sith. There's that entire part where Anakin jumps onto the same platform with Obi-Wan and loses his balance, and Obi-Wan goes, I'm like, he was waiting, and it's so obvious, and there's two of them. I'm like, but you're still like about that fight scene. Like,
that was there's a guy on YouTube that he is like a recreational sword fighter, and he breaks down all the fights in Star Wars, all the movies, and like goes into excruciating detail, like goes frame by frame. And he did a video just absolutely tearing apart the Acolyte fight and saying that it was actually really bad because there are so many openings where people could have got hit or stabbed or blah, blah, blah. They're swinging at nothing. And it kind of made me upset because I used to really like his videos. And he did like the prequel trilogy fights, but it's the exact same thing. There's tons of openings where like Maul or Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan could have killed each other in that fight. But, you know, that's different because he's like explaining that away because everybody likes that fight scene. So I think that was like a lot of creators are doing right now. I don't think they actually dislike the Acolyte as much as they say they do, but they just know that saying they dislike it is going to get them clicks and money. So
I forget what his name
was.
It's
going to give you the money.
It was like I think it was like Tim the Toy Collector on TikTok. It was that black guy that went through and
the toy
watched
collector.
all this
the toy collector.
So he's been doing videos too, like protecting the Acolyte, and he's like, lots of your creators on here are just straight misinforming you and lying to you about the Acolyte just to get a paycheck.
Mhm.
He's like, and they're making bans.
Literally.
So I was commenting on his thing. I was like, bro, thank you, because he was making the same points I've been like preaching, especially about like how Anakin, like his story isn't ruined because he's created by the will and not by outside intervention, and it's yeah. I felt like I was fighting that fight alone, so it was cool seeing him talk about it too.
Yeah, I've when it comes to like the dislike of this show, I'm all for having debates and discourse with people. If you can actually articulate further than just making the statement, bad writing, bad acting, bad pacing, explain to me what specifically about the acting, the pacing, or the writing you don't like. Because I think for a lot of people, they just jump into comment sections, and if they use those buzzwords, then they feel like they're making a compelling argument. Like I want to have back and forth with people, and it doesn't need to be like angry trying to prove each other wrong. Like if you don't like the show, tell me why you don't like the show. I want to understand why people don't like the show. But unfortunately, you have a lot of people who don't actually know what they're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to pacing and writing and stuff like that. So I don't pretend that I know what I'm talking about with that stuff. Like I'm never going to engage with Jacob and try and tell him that I know better than him when it comes to pacing and acting and writing when I have no knowledge about that. You know, I'm just in it to talk about the lore.
Last night, I went through the exact conversation where this dude was like, Acolyte's terrible. I was like, well, what about it's terrible? And he didn't say anything about the lore. His first thing was pacing is bad. I was like, well, what's so bad about it? I don't know. It's just not great. And I'm like, well, what about it makes it not great in your opinion? I don't know. It's just slow. It's like, well, is it slow because there's no action yet? Or is it slow because scenes are being drawn out and it's not moving at a correct pace? I agree. I just because there's no action. Okay, so you just don't like exposition. You don't like the build up to the action. Just say.
Literally. No, because
you don't have the attention span for a conversation, and that you want your TikTok, and you want it to be action.
Everything needs to be like this. I would even say that the show has very fast pacing too, because you're confined to 8 episodes, so they're trying to like push it along. But yeah, I've had the same discourse with so many people in the comments where they're like, there's people that we know in the community too who've complained about this, and I'm not going to argue with them. They're like, writing's bad, pacing's bad, acting is bad. And every single time I'll reply to a comment, I'll be like, I won't debate these topics with you because I don't understand it. But what about it is bad? And it's just like Jacob's point. They say that the acting is just bad. Okay, what about the acting? Does the emotion not feel compelling? Does somebody not feel like they're acting? Like I'm basically rewatching these bits with my brother-in-law right now. And there's not a point where somebody like looks at the camera and says something bad. These people are professional actors for a reason, and that's why they're working for Disney. There's not a point where a character feels bland, or if they're made to feel a certain way, it's because of how they're written, kind of thing. So I personally do not see anything wrong with the acting, the pacing, the timing, the buzzwords that people use for the show. I just don't get it.
Another big one I hear is the dialogue's bad. I'm like, I had a guest at Disney. I was talking to a guest at Disney about the Acolyte. He's wearing a 501st thing. He brought 2 Neopixels to the park with him. I was like, okay, I'm talking about Acolyte. He's saying that it's bad. And then the sabers he has Anakin and he has Obi-Wan. I'm talking to him. I'm like, well, why don't you like it? And he's like, the dialogue is so bad. I'm like, pause. You're a prequels fan, dude. And he was like, yeah. I'm like, have you heard those movies? That is like some of the worst dialogue ever. It's Shakespearean and it doesn't fit. It's awkward and it's poorly paced. It's wordy and it's nonsensical. But you love it because you have those tight-ass nostalgia goggles on your head. I'm like, dude, it's the same argument. And then it's like, but the acting's not great. Have you seen Anakin Skywalker? That is a plank of wood. We love him because he's our favorite character, and we grew up with him, and the Clone Wars built on his character to make him really good. But if you're going off him just from those movies, he's Planky from Ed, Edd and Eddy. He's a piece of wood. The acting in the show is great in comparison. It's like you prequels fans are making the same arguments that were made about your movies back in the day. I'm like, just shut the up. It's like it's literally the reoccurring cycle of Star Wars.
He used his one pass.
I've
Bro,
said
he
it
had
quite a few
6.
times.
What are you talking about? It's 6 passes.
Oh no, that's true.
Heated. I'm getting
Bro
heated.
dropped 6.
Now that we're
F-bombs
20
last
minutes
week.
in,
You gotta
now that
edit
we're
this
20 minutes in, let's talk about the episode. Let's talk
no,
about the episode now that we're 20
do-
minutes in.
The one last point I want to make just about this conversation was I do have a couple gripes, but like I again like with my limited knowledge of like dialogue and stuff, I think that I don't like the actress's acting that plays Master Vernestra. I think it's just very wooden. But that could be the lines that she's saying, that could be the direction that she's being given on how to say those lines. There's so many different things that could result in why I don't really care for her performance, but also that doesn't take me out of it because I still think her character's cool and I'm going to buy her action figure if they make it. That's like where I'm at with it because I'm just a Star Wars fan. I'm not so focused on more general movie and TV watching things like that. Again, this is a Star Wars podcast. We're talking about Star Wars lore. And like Jacob said, if we were trying to, talk about good dialogue, good pacing, good anything, Star Wars is not the franchise to be talking about when it comes to masterful things like that. It's just not. So with that aside, I know Jacob wanted to mention, just give a brief thoughts on last episode 5 of the Acolyte.
Yes.
Because you weren't here last time.
No, and it was.
I wasn't either.
You got
a banger.
I'm mad at more Jackson. But no, the episode was fantastic. I've once again fallen into the Batman Moon Knight trap where I'm like, Chimere, new favorite. Like wallpaper, Chimere. So it's the Stranger it's absolute banger. His dialogue's cool. I called his character. I was like, I like the episode before. You can roll the tape. The Oracle of the Acolyte did call that he would be the Stranger because he was the only one that wasn't there, and he had that bag that was perfect for his little suit and the helmet. And but I do like that. I think the execution between two characters was done perfectly between like this like dude that kind of seems like a runt to like the Master itself. And just the fighting was absolutely fantastic. It's the most fluid movement that we've seen in a fight scene in a long time, and it really does feel like this is like the Jedi at their peak. And also I was not expecting everybody to die. Absolutely R.I.P. Yord. The Yord horde is in shambles. I could have like straight up. So I'm watching it with Alexa, and she hasn't watched any of the Acolyte yet. We were just hanging out. I was like, by the way, this new episode just came out. I'm going to watch it right now. You're welcome to watch it with me. She's like, cool. And the entire time I was like this. And then when Yord died, I was like, not Yord. And I was sitting like this. And she was like, dude, you haven't taken a breath in like a minute. You need to breathe. So like, I didn't realize I was straight holding my breath like half the episode. So, and then I just like, after the fight was over, I was like, okay, that's the episode. That's it. And I just kept going. I was like, but no, I couldn't be more happy with that episode. I've convinced many people in the parking lot to go and give the Acolyte another try because of that episode, and now they're liking it too. So it's it was an absolute banger. Absolute banger. Wait, I gotta say it one more time. Absolute banger.
It was a great episode. I'm convincing my coworkers to watch it too.
Yeah, it was
dude. When Jackie dies, and then Soul's like Jackie, and then was that its name? That was hard.
That was so tragic.
Yord Horde has been replaced. Do you see Yord Horde has been replaced by the Chimere Peers?
The Chimere
Peers.
That's
Dude,
like
his arm physique is insane. I shot the actor a DM and I was like, what do you do to work out? I want my arms to look like yours, dude.
He's never gonna reply.
Sadly, no.
Ask him when you see him at Celebration.
Dude, well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking most of the Acolyte people are going to be at Celebration. But the thing that sucks is I'll be able to get Soul's figure. Yeah, what is that?
That is the Italian using a hair dryer at 7:23 in the afternoon.
Interesting. You can mute yourself. But I know I'm really hoping a lot of the Acolyte people are going to be there. But if they do an action figure of the Stranger, it is not going to be out in time before Celebration. Consider Thrawn, Lars Mikkelsen appearance should be out before that, maybe. So I would hope at least that we'll get something soon. I think it's smart for the marketing that they haven't released a lot of what the action figures look like. We only know what Skeleton Crew looks like because it's been such like a long wait. That was something we forgot to talk about. There's been Skeleton Crew Lego leaks. If you guys saw, they have the set pictures for their ship and the characters too, which this very much looks like a kid's show, which is fine. I don't care.
I'm excited for the show.
It's supposed to be Star Wars meets Goonies, so it's gonna be.
Right.
We're back.
It's gonna be a little bit more kiddish.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now that we're 27 minutes into the episode.
I mean, there's not a lot. That's the thing, though. There's not a lot to talk about.
No, there wasn't actually a lot to talk about.
The biggest
it really
thing
wasn't,
is,
so I'm fine.
Is Soul and May are going to have a big talk because he finally put it together that it wasn't Osha.
Yes.
We're having another flashback episode.
Dude, that scene where Soul is just sitting there and he's like, he's trying to get the transmission across that everybody's dead, and just how he's expressing his face, like the subtle movements in his brow. Dude, that man he can show me how paint can dry and I would be interested.
Dude.
That man is so beyond expressive. It is insane. Like his eyes tell stories. You don't get a lot of actors that do that. Like just looking in his eyes can tell you what's happening. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Even the scene where he's visibly upset too, and then he hits the table kind of a thing. It's boom. You want to talk about bad acting in the Acolyte, bro? Pause.
I think Soul is our people would say he's like our Qui-Gon Jinn, but Soul is a representation of what the ideal Jedi is. He acknowledges his feelings instead of compartmentalizing them, and he lets himself feel things, and he acknowledges his weaknesses as opposed to pretending they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
I got some lore. To drop.
Lore.
This is my. So you know how I've been saying for the past couple weeks now. I think Darth Plagueis will show up at the end of the show and kill Chimere.
Yeah.
Here's more evidence to this theory. The planet, the unknown planet, okay? According to the Darth Plagueis novel, which is Legends, but Leslie Headland has been consistently bringing in Legends material, whether it's Basil's species or Cortosis or other things like that. She's been bringing in Legends material.
Cortosis.
So, speaking of Cortosis, in the novel of Darth Plagueis and his master Darth Tenebris travel to a planet called Baldemnik, which is an ocean planet with rocky islands where Cortosis is mined. We see a vein of Cortosis at the end of this episode, and the description of the planet in the novel pretty consistently matches what we see in the show. And in that book, that's Plagueis kills Tenebris on that planet and makes it his secret base, where Plagueis starts collecting people to see who his apprentice will be. Obviously, it ends up being Palpatine, but I could totally see him killing Chimere because he is unhappy that someone else now knows about his secret planet, that being Osha. And I think Soul and May are on their way there as well. So I think all of them will inevitably die, and we will be left with Darth Plagueis killing them all. So I think that
mute the mic.
It would not surprise me if the ending of this, where it fades from unknown planet, it fades to the name of it, like how in the end of Rings of Power. This is spoilers for Rings of Power, but you've had time to watch it at this point. The Southlands. After Sauron returns, the Southlands, just the name of it pops up and it burns away into Mordor. I think that's something like that's going to happen in this. Did you guys see that an anime Lord of the Rings movie is coming out in December?
No, I did see that. That's crazy, dude.
A whole ass anime Lord of the Rings movie coming out in this December. I'm so excited.
That'll be dope. But yeah, no, I was very much getting the Last Jedi kind of vibes from the planet, but I knew it couldn't be the same thing because there wasn't porgs, because they had the little. You just mentioned the duck creature thing, dude. I didn't remember that. It's hard. But those are really cute. But yeah, I was just like, it was a really interesting planet because it gave off like a very like Sith vibe, because we could perceive the Sith as like brutal, disgusting people. Like everything that they would have is like jagged and rigid, but it's peaceful. It's calm. It has a nice dark undertone to it because they're not wicked people per se. They're seeking out peace, kind of a thing.
They're evil.
Well, yeah, they're evil. They're evil for sure.
Slaughter 8 Jedi.
No, he's pretty bad. I want.
I do know
you're right.
Like, it's
not
like
the right
almost
word.
like Mach 2, but it's like this uncanny valley where it's like almost like what we're familiar with. But
Yes.
I think that one thing they did a great job of in this episode was showing the seduction of the dark side. I've always found it a little bit difficult to see how people can turn to the dark side. I think the best that Star Wars has done to show it is Luke Skywalker with the Return of the Jedi fight with Palpatine. Palpatine seducing him to the dark side, using his anger and his hatred against him to show his true strength. But I think that they did a better job of it in this show with this episode. Chimere, in some very obvious ways, like physically seducing Osha by being naked and things like that, and giving her seductive looks. That's like one way of showing that. But also the things that he's saying, slowly seducing her to the dark side, like exposing her to it little by little, making it sound not as bad as it really is.
But also like making her question her morals.
Yeah,
making
for someone
her question her own morals and bring it out.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing about this episode is, and again, Manny Jacinto's performance is just impeccable in this show. He does such a good job.
Yeah, when he's like, kill me with the lightsaber, and she can't do it.
But then he just starts talking shit until she turns it on.
Yeah.
Just in general, I loved how they ended it with her putting on the helmet and the music kind of just I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really neat too. I think it's a pretty solid thing. Tommy mentioned this in the Discord that we know that Chimere's master is, I forget the name of the lady who has the lightsaber whip, because it's very obvious. Yeah, it's very obvious he has the whip marks on his back from her saber because of the way it's shaped.
Yeah.
And she only used it once in the episode to provide member berry, kind of a thing.
Convenient that it showed up in the same episode.
Yeah.
Lightsaber whip.
Yeah, but I am curious to see what's going to happen because now we have 2 episodes left. I am very much in the camp of that Osha may start to turn bad. It may start to turn good, at least if it's obeying what I really like the titles that they use for this, where it's like the slash, because it's representative of May and Osha, like how the Acolyte symbol goes into the 2 O's to show they're twins, kind of a thing, because each of them is experiencing a different thing at once, and it's really, really neat.
I've also seen it as like Jedi Sith, like the Jedi teach, and they see the Sith as corrupting, but the Sith would see it as teaching. You know, that I think that it's cool because it's this mirror that's being held up. Yes,
or even May was taught something, but Osha is corrupted in this.
Yeah, I think too that it's really cool to. I'm going to keep with my theory that they are, Jackson and I have been talking about the last few weeks, that these guys are, May and Osha, perpetually opposites. Like they're never going to be like the same person. They're never going to be on the same page as each other.
One's chasing the sun, the other's chasing the moon.
Yeah, like in episode 4, I think it was, Osha tells Yord, hey, if we have to, kill May. But then right as that's happening, May's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be with my sister. And when we see Osha pushing away, May wants to get back to her again. Whereas like in this episode, May is about to learn the truth of what really happened. I think she's going to learn that she was lied to by Chimere and that it wasn't the Jedi that actually killed the witches, or the Jedi had to kill the witches because they had no other choice.
That's true.
I also think that in the same way, we see that now Osha is being tempted by the dark side. So obviously they're like kind of crossing paths, but they're continuing to just be just missing each other. They're just going to be perpetually opposite.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really cool dynamic, and the fact that there's one person playing the two characters is crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like she does a really good job at both too.
Yeah, no, the way to split apart these two people and really, there was this thing where she was talking about how she like physically splits these characters. Like she had certain music she would listen to when getting into the headspace of one character, or she has certain perfumes for May versus Osha. So the scent triggers something subconsciously of who is who. So she also is like physically changing stuff, like her surroundings, to alter her performance as well, rather than just her mentality, which I think is like a great thing for performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because May trying to be Osha is such a poor job too, because she doesn't know how Osha acts, kind of a thing. So I found that to be like really interesting too. Like when she's really trying to fake it for Soul, it is bad. But that's just because she doesn't know how her sister acts.
But then Soul's so in his bag, he doesn't notice at first.
Yeah, he's so clouded by his emotions that he has no idea that she's even on the ship. Which, shout out my boy Basil for being there.
Shout out the homie Basil.
Little boy. Shout out the little boy.
Yeah.
Oh, we have the anti-Pip too. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah, evil Pip.
Evil Pip.
I would say his name backwards, but it's still Pip. So I guess I'll say his name upside down. Bib.
Bib.
Yep.
It's Bib.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was this episode. I unfortunately only got to watch it once before we're recording.
Same.
But it was just a lot. I said to Jen when we finished watching it, I was like, it's just a lot of talking. Like and when there's episodes like this, I find those episodes really, really interesting, and they can really bring some character growth and some exposition and things like that. But
for things like this,
more than once.
For a podcast episode, it doesn't really because it's a lot of exposition, and it's a lot of stuff that's like you kind of have to see it and to like really be there to understand it. Because we could give the spark notes of what happened, but other than that, like you really have to like experience an episode like this to follow the story.
Yeah,
what's happening.
As far as Vernestra goes, I liked that scene where she's talking to the senator. And again, we're seeing more of the beginnings of the corruption where we get to the prequel Jedi. Because you start to have Jedi at the lower levels who are working their way up the totem pole, who are corrupt and they care more about the Senate than the ideals of the Jedi Order. And we see how they get so intertwined with the politicians later on. So Vernestra goes with her, I think it's her new Padawan, I would assume, and then a couple other Jedi. And we get to see the cold, dead corpses of all the fallen Jedi.
I was not expecting that part either. I was like, oh my God.
I was like, Yord scream time? More Yord screen time?
That was great. And
Skywalker Hendrix last night be like, I'm just going to take this figure and I'm just going to evil.
I think honestly with this though, and I think this is like another gimme. I think that Vernestra's like, damn, I got to find a way to, cover this up. She's not going to go to the High Council. Yeah. That's not her intention. And she kind of asks the other Jedi, well, what do you guys think happened? And her Padawan goes, yeah, well, there was a fight, someone very powerful in the Force, and then Vernestra could totally write this off as, in my opinion, yeah, Soul went rogue because he wanted both the twins because of his connection to them.
It sounded like that's the story that's already being spun. It sounded like that was the conclusion that the apprentice came to.
Fell to the dark side and he killed these Jedi and they left because he wasn't there when they got there. He turned off the communicator and he dipped.
Yeah. Bro was in his bag. He said, I need to listen to My Chemical Romance real quick.
So do you think that we won't, like Soul, May, and Osha will all die and then it'll just be like we won't see or hear from them again? So then Vernestra will just go back and be like, yeah, and this is what happened. That'll be just as far as the Jedi know, that's all that ever happened.
I don't know. I kind of have a theory too that I've been holding on to, that the end of this show, if it's supposed to be wrapped up in a bow, that one of the concluding things that we might see is the Jedi Council be put under the oversight of the Senate. Because that's something that's already happened by the prequel trilogy. And again, Leslie Headland's like really good about doing all these like deep lore beats. And I feel like that might be another beat she's referencing if we keep seeing the connection that the Jedi kind of have their own free reign right now and they're not under the Senate. But again, that's a stretch in my opinion. So I'm not expecting that to happen. But that's a theory that I have that I'm like, oh, that would be cool if we got to see that.
We're already seeing the Jedi work with senators in this. Venestra is speaking to a senator, like politicians talk to senators. It seems in this time period, there's a little bit more politics entwined with the Jedi, rather than the separation of church and state that we see a little bit more in the prequels. So I don't know if we're going to see something that leads to more of a separation or if it's just going to be like more political oversight at this time. Either way, I'm really excited to see these next episodes. Sorry, I've been snacking on big boy kibble this entire time.
We could tell the bag is really loud.
Yeah, well, oopsie poopsie and Pookie. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't think the next two episodes are going to be like this kind of an episode. I think it'll be like the wrap up now.
Yeah, I think we'll get a flashback episode where, because there is that shot in the one trailer where Kelnaka is jumping at Torben. We never saw that. So I think that I think the witches possessed Kelnaka. Or, so get this. So there's this weird exchange in this episode. And shout out to our boys at Sarlacc Digest. I listened to part of their podcast from this episode. I never caught this. I'll have to go back and watch the third episode of The Acolyte. But they pointed out, okay, Osha asks Hymir, how old are you? And he says, I'm very old. And she's like, well, and he's like, trust me, I'm very old. They brought up that when the witches are doing the ritual for like, what's it called? The not the awakening. That was
the Ascension.
The Ascension.
It was the Ascension.
That there's a hooded figure in the background behind Mother Anastasia. And then when the Jedi show up, the hooded figure is gone. Like it's just a character. We don't see its face as opposed to all the other witches who we see all their faces. And then there's just this one hooded figure who disappears. My thought is maybe the Jedi killed the witches because they were led to believe the witches possessed Kelnaka to attack Torben. Because we saw in that flashback, they possessed Torben for a minute and were like led to believe that that's, the witches just possess Kelnaka. The Jedi have to kill the witch to free Kelnaka. What if Hymir was there and he was the one possessing the Jedi?
That would make sense.
He makes them fight each other and kill each other. And then he's able to corrupt, because maybe Hymir, when he says, I want the power of two, maybe he's not referring to one acolyte. He wants both the twins. Just saying.
Because and then that makes sense, because that would also make sense as if he was trained by these witches who are taking over people's mind, why he always wears a sensory helmet while he's fighting so nobody can get in his head. That's a perfect deflection for their tactics. Yep. And maybe he had a run. Maybe when he was Vernestra's Padawan, they had a run in. Something happened where he got left behind, because he says that to Osha. He says, someone who left me behind. And maybe he's referring to Vernestra left him behind. The witches found him and they were possessing him, but he found a way to like overcome that. So like Jacob said, now he wears the helmet so that no one can have control over him. What if he killed them all? What if he's still killed them all?
I think, yeah.
Because, and then that would also follow into our line of, if he is the Padawan of Plagueis at this point in time, it would make a ton of sense if he were to kill the people that know how to influence the midichlorians to create life, as Palpatine says. So that's the thing, though, is like the stuff with the maybe Plagueis is such like it's such a spitball theory, though. I want it to be like that's how it wraps up, but I also kind of feel with how this episode went, I don't think that's how it's gonna go, because especially
there is no other master on the island.
That's what I'm saying, because when he said, I want the power too, that my whole thing is that it makes it sound like he's on his own and he wants to be a master and apprentice, and that's what he wants. But then again, how does the power of two exist at this point? Is that because to what we know, there's no Sith code right now that's been written. So I don't really know how that falls into place. Either way, I'm just excited to see like where the show goes, no matter what the ending is, what happens. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this episode gets a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
I'd agree.
It's a good episode.
Mm-hmm. But with that, I think we're all just got our thoughts out. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the 1313 podcast. If you liked it, please leave a like. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about this episode, or if you want to go and have some fun discourse, join the Discord. Link is down below. Talk about the Acolyte with some people that like it, maybe some people that don't. If you do want to leave a comment about it and you're not a fan of the Acolyte, please, all we ask is that you keep it respectful.
Or don't, and we'll just ignore your comment.
Yeah,
That is
we want to have discourse with people. We don't want silly, petty, childish things happening. So just let us know what you guys thought. So join Discord, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all over social media, link down below, and support us on Patreon or hit the join button if you feel like it, because we really appreciate it. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you had a good one. Hope you ate some had a nice hot dog. Look like the 4th of July. Makes me want a hot dog real bad.
All right.
All right, that's all. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.
Hey, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the 1313 podcast.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Hum da da hum da da hum dum dum da. Hum da da hum da da dum dum da dum da ba do ba do ba do ba do. Ba-do ba-dum ba-ba-dum ba-do-ba-dum ba-do-ba-dum ba-do-ba-dum-dum. Hum-da-dum hum-da-da hum-dum-dum-dum hum-dum hum-dum-da-dum hum-da-da hum-dum-da-da. Hey, hum-da-da-dum-da-da-dum-dum. Hum da dum da da dum da dum da dum da da ba da dum dum da ba ba da ba da.